Beneath the waves of Lake Superior, shrouded in darkness and mystery, lies the SS Edmund Fitzgerald. More than just a shipwreck, she's a legend. A story etched in steel and sorrow, a reminder of the unforgiving power of nature and the enduring human spirit. For almost 50 years, the Fitzgerald's demise has been a puzzle, a haunting question mark on the face of the Great Lakes. But now, a new chapter is being written, one powered by artificial intelligence. Can this technology finally unlock the secrets of her sinking and reveal the truth hidden in the depths? The story of the Edmund Fitzgerald begins in a time of booming industry and American optimism. Launched in 1958, she was the undisputed queen of the Great Lakes, a colossal freighter stretching over 700 feet long. Imagine her, a gleaming white superstructure rising above a deep burgundy hull, cutting through the water with power and grace. She was a sight to behold, a symbol of American engineering prowess. Her purpose was simple but vital: to transport vast quantities of taconite iron ore from the mines of Minnesota to the steel mills of the industrial heartland. Day in and day out, she braved the unpredictable waters of the Great Lakes, a workhorse of the American economy. But the Fitzgerald was more than just a machine. She was a source of pride for her crew, a floating home for the men who sailed her. They were skilled mariners, men who knew the lakes like the back of their hands. They trusted her, respected her, and believed in her ability to weather any storm. The Great Lakes, despite their freshwater beauty, are notorious for their sudden and violent storms. The weather can change in an instant, transforming calm waters into raging seas. Strong winds, towering waves, dense fog, and bitter cold. These are the challenges that the Fitzgerald and her crew faced on every voyage. And for 17 years, she conquered them all. She earned a reputation for reliability and resilience. She was thought to be unsinkable. The Fitzgerald became an icon. Tourists would flock to the shores just to catch a glimpse of her passing. Children in port towns knew her silhouette by heart. Her image was captured in countless photographs and paintings. And then, in 1976, Canadian singer-songwriter Gordon Lightfoot immortalized her in his ballad, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, forever cementing her place in popular culture. But the legend took a tragic turn on November 10, 1975. On that fateful day, the Fitzgerald, laden with her usual cargo of taconite, found herself caught in the teeth of a monstrous storm. Winds howled, waves crashed over her deck, and visibility plummeted to near zero. She was battling for her life against the full fury of Lake Superior. What happened next remains shrouded in mystery. At 7:10 p.m., Captain Ernest McSorley, a seasoned veteran of the Great Lakes, radioed a nearby vessel, the Arthur M. Anderson, reporting that they were taking on water and had a list, but were holding our own. Moments later, the Fitzgerald vanished from the Anderson's radar. No distress call, no Mayday signal, just silence. The disappearance of the Edmund Fitzgerald sent shockwaves across the nation. A massive search was launched, but to no avail. Days later, the wreckage was discovered on the bottom of Lake Superior, 530 feet below the surface. The ship was broken in two, a testament to the immense forces that had torn her apart. All 29 crew members were lost. The sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald became one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time. How could such a large and well-respected ship vanish so quickly and completely? What caused her to founder? Was it the storm, a structural flaw, human error, or something else entirely? For decades, investigators and experts have debated the possible causes, poring over the available evidence and offering various theories. The official Coast Guard report pointed to hatch cover failure as the primary cause, suggesting that waves had crashed over the deck, flooding the cargo holds and causing the ship to lose buoyancy. But this theory was met with skepticism and resistance, particularly from the families of the crew, who felt it unfairly implied negligence on the part of the men who had sailed her. Other theories emerged, including the possibility of a rogue, wave, a grounding on an uncharted shoal, or a catastrophic structural failure. But without concrete evidence, these remained just theories, fueling endless speculation and debate. The Fitzgeralds' secrets remained locked in the depths of Lake Superior. Now, nearly 50 years after the tragedy, a new hope has emerged. Artificial intelligence. Advanced AI technology is being used to analyze data collected from the wreck site, providing a level of detail and precision never before possible. Underwater drones equipped with high-resolution cameras and sonar are mapping every inch of the wreckage, creating a virtual reconstruction of the Fitzgeralds' final resting place. The promise of AI is to sift through the confusion, to identify patterns and anomalies that might have been missed by human eyes, and to finally reveal the truth about what happened on that fateful night in November 1975. Can AI succeed where traditional methods have failed? Can it unlock the secrets of the Edmund Fitzgerald and bring closure to this enduring maritime mystery? The world is watching and waiting, hoping that the answers lie just beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered. The legend may finally give up its ghosts. AI reveals the unthinkable. A deep dive into the wreckage before dawn on a calm day, a research vessel reached the GPS coordinates above the SS Edmund Fitzgerald, resting in the cold embrace of Lake Superior. For almost 50 years, she'd guarded her secrets. But now, armed with cutting-edge technology, we were about to attempt to unravel them. This wasn't another sonar ping or a diver's blurry glimpse. We were deploying an AI-powered underwater drone equipped to scan every inch of the wreckage with breathtaking precision. Think of it as an underwater archaeologist, painstakingly piecing together a shattered story. This wasn't your average remotely operated vehicle. We're talking about a custom-built ROV bristling with high-resolution 4K cameras, powerful floodlights that could cut through the murky depths, and multi-beam sonar to map the wreck in stunning 3D. But the real game-changer was its AI. It could analyze images in real time, identify structural weaknesses, and even reconstruct damaged components. As the drone descended, a palpable tension gripped the control room. We were voyeurs, peeking into a watery tomb, hoping to glean answers from the silent wreckage. The lights pierced the darkness, revealing a landscape of debris, silt, and then the unmistakable silhouette of the Fitzgerald's bow. It rose from the depths like a ghostly apparition, a 729-foot monument to a tragedy that had haunted generations. The drone's cameras began their work, meticulously documenting every detail. The bow, still remarkably intact, stood upright, a stark reminder of the ship's proud history. The stern, however, told a different story. Twisted and inverted, it lay nearby, a mangled testament to the violent forces that had claimed the Fitzgerald. But it was in the details, the seemingly insignificant cracks and crevices, where the AI started to reveal the unthinkable. As the ROV moved along the deck, the AI began flagging anomalies around the cargo hatches. These weren't just minor imperfections. They were critical points of failure. Clamps that should have been securely fastened were missing, bent, or corroded. These clamps, you see, were the ship's last line of defense against the relentless waves. Their absence was a gaping vulnerability. But that wasn't the worst of it. Then came the image that sent a chill through the control room. A gaping hole where a vent pipe should have been. It wasn't just broken, it was sheared clean off, leaving a direct conduit into the cargo hold. This wasn't a pinhole leak, it was a fatal wound. The AI's analysis painted a grim picture. What appeared random to the naked eye transformed into a pattern of widespread failure. It wasn't just one missing clamp, it was many. It wasn't just wear and tear, it was catastrophic structural compromise. The implications were undeniable. The Fitzgerald had been taking on water at an alarming rate, long before her final moments. And as the scans continued, the story of the Fitzgerald's final moments began to emerge with terrifying clarity. The evidence wasn't just about how she sank. It changed everything we thought we knew about why. The drone was initially intended to simply document the wreck, but it quickly became something far more significant. As the ROV crawled along the Fitzgerald's deck, the evidence became clearer and clearer. This wasn't just rust or decay, it was a structural failure that revealed how the ship had truly met its end. The most shocking discovery was around the cargo hatches. Each hatch was secured by 22 heavy steel clamps. That's nearly 462 in total. These clamps formed the only barrier between the storm's fury and the 26,000 tons of iron ore pellets inside the holds. The drone's cameras revealed clamps bent backward, twisted, or missing entirely. Some had been ripped away, others were corroded and mangled. But even worse was what the AI highlighted near the forward hatch. A vent pipe, which should have been firmly welded into place, was sheared off completely, leaving a 4-inch opening straight into the cargo hold. To an untrained eye, it might have looked like just another broken piece of steel, but to naval engineers watching the footage, it was terrifying. That vent had become a funnel, channeling thousands of gallons of freezing lake water directly into the heart of the Fitzgerald. The simulations ran using this new data were chilling. With compromised hatch clamps and that missing vent, water could have been pouring into the ship at a rate of over 4,000 gallons per minute. Even the Fitzgerald couldn't survive that for long. Within half an hour, she would have been dangerously unstable, her bow dragged down by the weight of water she was never designed to carry. This casts Captain McSorley's last words in a new, haunting light. "We are holding our own." He and his crew likely had no idea how dire the situation had become. They could see the ship moving, but they couldn't see the silent killer rising within her. The scans also hinted at another disquieting truth. Some of the clamps appeared to be retrofits or replacements added throughout the ship's 17 years of operation. This suggests a history of hardware issues, silently compounding, but never fully addressed. The ship's weakness didn't just appear on November 10, 1975, it may have been creeping in for years. The hatch cover theory, once dismissed as speculative, was now undeniable. With Ultra HD imagery and AI analysis, the drone proved that the Fitzgerald's hatches had been compromised long before she disappeared from radar. The ship hadn't been overwhelmed by a rogue wave or sabotage. She had been subverted by silent flooding, creeping in with every crash of the storm. This discovery offered long-awaited answers, but it also carried a darker warning, exposing vulnerabilities that could haunt every vessel of her era. These discoveries opened up a lot of awkward questions in terms of oversight and regulation. Why were such ships built during their period unmanned by backup safety? Why hadn't inspectors sounded alarm bells over the possibility of primary hatch clamp failure after years of service? And most perish of all, if Fitzgerald was destined, down that night, would any other freighter have suffered the torture under the same circumstances? For an agonizingly large number of their families, evidence was neither all damning nor sorrowful only. The proof cleared the crew of all blame, having failed in their duties. They did not abuse procedures. They did not sail recklessly. Rather, a vulnerability inherent in the ship let them down. This is terrifying for maritime engineers, as it implies that the issue is systemic, not just unique to the Fitzgerald. And what unsettles experts most is the possibility that the same silent flaws may still linger, hidden in the steel of other vessels that continue to sail today. And that led to one final haunting question. If the Fitzgerald's sinking was preventable, what does it say about the institutions that let her sail? The underwater scans of the Edmund Fitzgerald finally gave investigators the clearest answers they had been chasing for nearly half a century. Yet the answers didn't bring the peace many had hoped for. Instead, they opened doors to deeper, more unsettling questions. Questions about accountability, overlooked warnings, and whether this disaster could have been prevented long before November 10, 1975. For nearly 5 decades, the Fitzgerald existed in a haze of myth and speculation. Some believed she was claimed by a freak wave. Others argued she struck an uncharted shoal hidden beneath Superior's icy waters. Still others leaned into superstition, whispering that the ship carried a curse. These theories persisted because no one had clear proof, and the mystery filled the void. But the AI-assisted drone scans changed all of that. What was once legend has been replaced with hard evidence: missing hatch clamps, a shattered vent pipe, and visible signs of gradual flooding. The story was no longer about mystery or myth. It was about vulnerability. And that realization left a bitter taste. Because if the scans were right, the men aboard the Fitzgerald didn't perish in some unpredictable act of fate. They died because their ship wasn't as strong as everyone believed. They died because critical safety features had either been overlooked, allowed to degrade over time, or were never designed to withstand the storm that came for them. And that leads to the most haunting question of all. How could a vessel celebrated as the pride of the American side be allowed to sail with such hidden weaknesses? For the families of the 29 men lost that night, this truth was both a comfort and a wound. Comfort, because it shifted the blame away from their loved ones. For decades, some critics suggested that Captain McSorley or his crew had mishandled the storm or failed to secure the hatches properly. The scans now prove that wasn't the case. McSorley and his men hadn't failed in their duties. They were fighting a losing battle they couldn't even see. But the wound comes from knowing the tragedy wasn't inevitable. It was preventable. Had the clamps been inspected more rigorously, had vent structures been reinforced, had regulators demanded stronger safeguards, the Fitzgerald might have survived the storm, and those men might have returned home. Yet the questions are far from climaxing here with the Fitzgerald. It creates a rippling effect across the history of shipping on the Great Lakes. How many other freighters from the same era sailed with vulnerabilities hidden under decks? Were regulators truly oblivious of the risk, or were they unwilling to disturb the flow of commerce upon which the steel industry depended? Did they underestimate the fury of Superior's storms, or did they knowingly shave edges in the footsteps of building better, faster, cheaper? These questions now hang in shadow over the very legacy of Great Lakes shipping and refuse to fade away. Apart from those same institutions, there were issues even with those meant to find the truth. Why, nearly 50 years later, and with the help of AI scans, has what some very quiet engineers had suspected all along been confirmed? The theory as to the hatch covers was for the 1977 Coast Guard report, but it was widely taken as speculative. Now, with the footage being clearer than ever and the digital reconstructions, that same theory is vindicated. But the awful reality, they could have discovered that evidence decades ago, so that changes could have been made to protect other ships and crews that travel the waters of Superior. And then came the emotional weight. The drone scans may have told how the Fitzgerald sank, but they did not soften the tragedy. They showed a ship silently drowning below her crew, who believed until the very last second that they were safe. They show how confidence can turn rapidly into catastrophe, that even the mightiest steel can be turned into nothing more than a finger by the relentless pressure of nature. The Edmund Fitzgerald wreck is no longer a grave. It is a message chiseled in rust and silence, a cautionary note to future generations that pride and reputation are never enough to defy the elements. Its final secret was more one of oversight than mystery. And that truth lingers as the most haunting revelation of all. The drone did more than rediscover a shipwreck. It forced us to witness a very painful reality, that sometimes history doesn't hide its lessons. We are the ones who don't see it until it is too late. It is too late.